Welcome to the hobby series, my gamers and yappers. In this beginning of this series, we'll be talking about hobbies that benefit us from burnout, that also benefit us in other ways. Specifically in this video, we'll be talking about biking, one of my favorite hobbies, and I found out other hobbies that are super helpful for dealing with burnout. Like I said, today's topic is biking, how it can help, the cons of it, and our overall rating of it. So sit back, relax, and go to yap some with your favorite gamer. Hey, yo! I'm yapping here. What the Like, subscribe, let's get it. Today's topic is biking, as I said earlier. The quick intro to biking is biking, tricycling, bike riding, cross-country biking, mountain biking, whatever you want to get into when it comes to that. We're going to be discussing it. We're going to be talking about the pros and the cons of biking and what that can do for you post-burnout or pre-burnout to prevent burnout, right? Opening it up, one reason I chose biking for my hobby today is because I've done it for quite some time now. I biked when I was younger, I bike when I'm older, and what I've learned from it is it can get me to and from places, and it can get me to and from point A to point B mentally, if you know what I mean. Less stress overall when you work your bones and your muscles. And this can take the form of anything, whether it be mountain biking, city biking, cross-country biking, or elliptical biking. I'm not too partial to that one because I like to be out in the open, getting some fresh air, but that is an option you can take in the wintertime, for example. But let's get into the pros of biking and why I'm thinking that's going to start us off on this hobby series here on this channel. So pro one for biking that I found that really helps me out long term is that it's just good for your health. It's overall good for your health to get your body moving, get your muscles burning, get your blood pumping, especially after work when you've been sitting in the chair all day more often than not as millennials come to find ourselves in these service jobs. It's great for your mental health as well because it gets you really turning the blood to get the full circulation through your body from your toes to the top of your head and makes you feel better overall, just getting that activity going. And I think biking's a good one because it can take you places, whether you're stationary or otherwise, and you can really see your town, your neighborhood, your city in a different light than you would have in a car or on a bus or something like that. It's really good for that type of activity, for that type of engagement with yourself and your surroundings. I like it a lot when it comes to that, specifically road biking, as that's what my main bike of choice is in the city. I do like biking on the the streets and on the bike lanes when applicable. I'm a sidewalk surfer myself, but that's only if the drivers are getting a little bit too comfortable with their space in the road type of situation. You feel me? It's also a good money saver. This will be pro 2 for us here. It's a great money saver. I don't drive personally, never had a license, and eventually I'll get one, but since I have never had a license, my bike has got me to and from more places than I care to admit. Got me in a jam, out of a jam. It's easy to weave through alleyways if you're trying to cut through traffic or just get on the sidewalk, as I stated earlier. It's also a good reconnection with nature, in my opinion. Depending on where you are, biking can be good for taking a look at the surroundings around you and really taking it in at a bit of a slower pace than if you were just to drive through it with your windows up and your radio blasting. You can also get a wireless speaker, get that rolling, and get your really get your tunes on while you're riding. That's one of my favorite things to do, and I think that you'll enjoy it too. Another thing for pros for biking is it helps you really get in tune with your machine depending on how far you take it. Now, me personally, I try not to fix my bike, as sometimes, and one of our first cons here, the cost of fixing your bike can outweigh the cost of buying a new one, depending on what's going on with that situation. Sometimes it's easier to get a nice bike off of Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist for about $50 than it is to put $200 in to repair a chain or to fix your calipers on the back of your bike, right? But this is a long-term investment that you're making. So this con is a little bit of a soft con because once you put that money down to get the repair kit for your bike and everything else, it really pays for itself after a while, and then you have a new skill unlocked. So I would say this is a soft con as opposed to a hard con. Moving into the hard cons here of biking in general, it's a lot of effort. It's almost all effort, really. You can't really tell your boss that you didn't make it on the bus on a clear day, because if you're riding your bike, and they know you're riding your bike because you just got to get up early enough, make that move and try to get there on time and, get to your location in a reasonable amount of time with your bike, which is all possible. It just requires a lot more planning than maybe you were counting on. when you were taking a bus. I know for me, it took a little bit more time for me to really get into it, as far as it goes for planning and taking my time and making sure I get to where I need to be on time. But that's definitely one of the cons here. It's a lot of effort mentally and physically. Once again you get it really started, it kind of becomes second nature, and it starts to change you fundamentally as a person, in my opinion, when it comes to your plan making and your scheduling here, which I think is a benefit more than a negative. But I still would put it under a con overall, because all that biking makes you sweaty, all that sweat makes you a little bit unsightly. But again, sweating is good for you depending on the circumstance. So maybe if you know you have a big interview at work that day, maybe take the bus, maybe not bike, or bike out even earlier so you can get to the bathroom to freshen up, change your clothes a bit. That's a little bit of a hack for that con. Con number 2 that I would say is really against biking is that it's really weather dependent. You can really get screwed out of your plans for biking if you're not paying attention to the weather that day. If a sudden rainstorm comes through, then you probably don't want to finish that bike trip. You probably don't want to start it, and you probably have to think around of ways to get there. You might have to take an Uber or a bus, depending on where you are, to get to your location. But let's be sure we're planning ahead for the weather, because that can definitely take the air out of your tires, so to speak, and really leave you without as many options as you thought you would have when it came to setting this plan up in the first place. Personal experience here, biking in the rain, is if you're caught in it and it's just something you can't avoid, hey, you just have to do what you got to do. But I like planning around it and make sure I can avoid that if I need to, because it just really ruins the trip. It'll ruin your day if you let it. This is a definite knock against biking as one of your main modes of transportation. And another con that I touched on a little bit earlier here is just the upkeep can be expensive. An unexpected flat tire, an unexpected rusted chain, or a chain slipping off your track in the middle of your bike ride when you're already kind of light on time can really set you back, And I would argue that that's more so something you need to plan ahead about and really get into it when it comes to making sure that your upkeep is your upkeep. The cheat code around this, like I said earlier, is if you're buying cheap bikes in the first place and you don't want to put the investment into fixing your bike with the tools that can cost up to over $100 in some cases, most cases really, especially if you're just getting started with no parts or no tools. You can just buy a cheap one off Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, or whatever secondhand resource you have available to you. Specifically in the suburbs, or if you're around this edge of the city, most people in the suburbs tend to give away bikes a lot more often than you think. So I would keep my eye out for that, just to have a backup maybe in a pinch, or just to be sure you know where the bikes are if you need one in a quick hurry. To touch on how that biking is great for commuting and some of the benefits you'll get from it overall when it comes to stress relief and burnout relief is that it'll inspire you to wake up earlier, give you more time in your day, making sure you have a better bedtime as well, because if you can't sleep, you can't bike. And that's one thing I try to make sure I do when I'm getting on the road here to get to work or to get to the store or what have you. It does require tighter planning, but depending on who you're talking to, that's not necessarily a negative. It can be more of a positive to get you up and at 'em and in the space to plan better overall for your trips and such. So I think that's a good one there. And an anecdote for me, how it has affected me personally, it's kept me fit. As I've stated in videos before, I'm about 32 years old, and I've never had a license or a car myself, so I've primarily used the bike. But I think that it's kept me a lot more leaner than I would be otherwise. If you ask my wife, my glutes are pretty top tier right now, and it's usually mostly from biking. That's probably my biggest form of exercise there, is getting to and from the grocery store on my bike. It just keeps you better, keeps you regulated, it keeps your metabolism up, makes you hungrier. And as long as you supplement that diet or that hunger with a good diet, you'll be in a better shape than you think or than you realize. And I think that's something that us, especially as Americans, need to get situated with when it comes to our intake, our protein intake, caloric intake, and such. But oh no, my city isn't bike friendly. My town isn't bike friendly. There's a lot of roads in here, a lot of roads there and such. And that's a very valid complaint, especially in America, but I'm willing to say that it's time to challenge that a bit. We can't let the cars have all the space on the road. We can't let them bully us out of a good, travel, commute, and a workout here just because they, take up more of the real estate here when it comes to transportation. I think that putting ourselves in that position or being more of bikers and stuff will inspire law changes and stuff like that. We can also get out into the booths, the voting polls here, and kind of really see that we can make a change that we need to for biking and other things. But specifically for biking, we can rally for more bike lanes, for more laws against cars when it comes to sharing the road and stuff like that, just depending on where your city is. And of course, this is all relevant to where you are. So it really takes you getting into the, council and stuff to make sure that biking laws are better for you. But hey, that's just one thing we can do, another avenue to engage with it. And to keep this one quick, guys, and make sure we're staying light on time. The Yap of Me Gaming channel's rating for biking, I'm giving about 8 out of 10. You can jump it up to a 10 or knock it down to a 6, again, depending on your region, your location, because if your region is really inhospitable to biking, it might just be overall harder for you to do so. But if your region's already geared towards biking, there's a community for it where you can get a good bunch of tools on a startup basis from some friends, some community members. You can bump up to a 10 and really make a lot out of it. So I think that it's great for mental health. I think that it's great for saving money overall. And I think it's great for reconnecting with nature. And I do understand that the maximum amount of effort required to bike can be daunting for some people, can be challenging for some people. The weather, we can't really control the weather yet anyway. So I think that's something we need to be a little bit more future planning focus on, especially when it comes to just making sure that your bike's working, having that planning mindset going forward with the bike can help you out in a lot of different ways. And I think that overall, again, with all those pros and cons outlined, biking can be very much a benefit to you and your family, or just you in general, to make sure that you're doing the most for yourself and you're getting the most out of yourself on a day-to-day basis. But let me know what you think in the comments. Tell me some experience you have with biking and how that's helped you out or how that's benefited you overall. And I'd love to discuss that with you all. Let me know. Let's keep yapping, let's keep gaming, and then let's see where the bike takes us on this road called life. Much appreciate y'all. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how you feel. Keep a lookout for community posts as well. I've started posting there, and I would love to hear you guys' thoughts and inputs on things. Again, thanks again for tuning in, and let me know how you feel about this and where we can go. You have a great day, and we'll yap again some more later. I promise.